So we're in a series right now called Love Hacks. Say love hacks with me. Love hacks. So I heard that some people don't know what a hack is. In fact, they had to have a conversation with their kid about what a hack is. They thought it was like a hacker, like oh no, someone's stealing my identity, and so they had to. I guess they had to have a conversation about that. So I guess I need to define first of all what a life hack is. This is what Google calls a life hack. A life hack is a strategy or technique adopted in order to manage one's time and daily activities in a more efficient way. So maybe you've seen this, and you haven't even known that you've seen a life hack, online when you're scrolling through your news feed and there's 1,000 videos about how to make a dish more simply. Have you guys seen that? In 5 easy steps, and the video's right above, and you see every step along the way. You're oh man, that looks so good. I'm gaining weight just by looking at this, right? That's a life hack. Or a life hack is oh, how to clean this, this hard to clean item a little bit easier. Or my favorite love hack is if you've seen the video of the dad who has the vacuum cleaner with the hose, and then that's how he puts his daughter's hair in a ponytail. He sucks up his daughter's hair into the thing, and he takes the outside tie, and then he does it like that. It's perfect ponytail. And I tried it with my daughter, and she did not like it very much. Can you believe that? Man. Well, those are all life hacks. And so we are in a series called Love Hacks, which is all about sort of love proverbs. And so we are in a book right now called 1 John, which John is back in the later days, of the early church. He was writing to his churches, and his churches were divided and they were divisive, and there was division that was undercutting the ministry of the church. And so John is writing to them and reminding them a lot about their obligation and privilege to love. And so we are in this series of love hacks, learning about some of those things. Last week we had our love hack was to ask Jesus to help you love someone that you don't like. That was our love hack that we shared last week, and it was really cool being in our squad this past week and discussing about what does it look like to love someone that you don't necessarily like. And it was really cool. I got some feedback from someone in our congregation about this past message, and this is what they told me. My wife and I took some time going over the sermon points and thinking about all the people we don't like, which was a normal occurrence, I imagine. But we were talking about that and whether we love them. We are pretty much satisfied usually by doing right by them, but the difficulty is in loving people in spite of their hatred for us. We still do it, but it's hard. It kind of gives me perspective about how God feels about the people who hate him. And so through this life hack of asking Jesus to help you love someone that you don't necessarily like, God is teaching us something about love. It's teaching us about something about not just novelty love, but intimacy love. And it's just a good process for us to be able to go through. And so that's what we talked about last week. And this week we are talking specifically about true love versus an imitation love. We're going to be in 1 John chapter 2, starting off in verse 15 today. It's a great passage. If you have a Bible, this is one that you're going to want to underline. If you have the Bible app, you can open that up, or it's going to be up on the screen. John opens up and he's saying this to the church. Do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but they are from the world. And the world is fading away along with everything that the people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever. So this past week I went to my favorite sushi place, Joy's Sushi in downtown San Mateo. It's probably not the best sushi around, but it's my favorite because they give you a soup and a salad with any roll that you order, man. And that you do right by me if you give me a free soup and salad. And so I'm down there at Joy Sushi with a couple of my sacred friends, and we're having our various different kind of rolls. And I think we ordered 4 rolls. It was me and then 2 other girls that probably weighed 200 pounds combined. But we ordered 4 rolls together. We had all of our soups and our salads because we were hungry. And so we ordered all of our rolls together, and we ordered various things. But one of the things that we ordered was the imitation, it was like one of the rolls with like imitation crab inside of it, you know. So there's imitation crab inside it. And as I was eating this imitation crab, I was thinking to myself, I don't even know what real crab tastes like. Like I know it's imitation crab, obviously, but if you put like real, authentic Alaskan crab that they got from, you know, Dangerous Fishermen of whatever, of Deadliest Catch in there, like Dungeness crab, like I don't think I'd be able to taste the difference. Because the roll that I'm getting not only has the crab inside, but it also has the seaweed. There's also a little bit of avocado. There's a little bit of unagi sauce on top of there. There's the little like orange pebble bead things that are like salmon eggs on top of there. There's a little bit of hot sauce, and of course I doused the thing in wasabi and soy sauce. And so as I'm eating my sushi roll, I'm thinking, man, if there was like $100 a pound crab in this thing, I would not know the difference. I wouldn't know the difference. And so in that moment, as I'm eating my crab, my imitation crab sushi from Joy Sushi, you know, it doesn't really make much of a difference because imitation's best friend is a crowded room, right? Imitation's best friend is a crowded room. If I crowd my imitation crab with all this extra stuff, chances are I probably won't be able to tell the difference. Now, in this scenario, if you didn't catch on, imitation crab is just sort of like a proverb for imitation love. Because really, this is kind of what John is alluding to here, is that there is an imitation love and there is an authentic love or a genuine love. And some of us crowd ourselves with so much stuff in our life that we are feasting on imitation love, and we have no idea that there is a genuine love that is probably more filling for us than the imitation stuff. And I know because after I was done with all my rolls, I was so sick that night. I was so sick. I overstuffed myself. How many of you guys like sushi? It doesn't fill you up right away, and so you end up overeating, and then you end up regretting it later. Anyone? Just myself, yeah? Okay, so just definitely for myself then, like going to bed with a stomach ache, not if you're watching online, Joy Sushi, it's not you, it's me. But I was so sick because I was feasting on imitation that ultimately was not filling. And ultimately, this I think is what John is talking about here, is that you're feasting on imitation love that isn't fulfilling or satisfying what you really need in order to be nurtured, in order to grow, in order to find belonging, in order to find that root, that home place. There's an aching inside of you that's looking for the genuine, real stuff. But you're okay with imitation because you're just crowding yourself out. And so our big thought that we're talking about today is to trade in satisfaction that won't last for a love that won't run out. Trade in the satisfaction that won't last for the love that ultimately won't run out. When I was a youth pastor, you talk about different stuff to different teens, and of course you talk about, love and sex like every other month, because that's all that's on their mind, right? And I found out as I was a youth pastor, like it wasn't working, right? It wasn't working. What I was doing wasn't working. I was like, don't have sex. They're like, no. And, they kept on having sex. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? And so I tried like the don't have sex, you'll get pregnant. Don't have sex, there's tons of, STDs out there. But, that doesn't stop them, right? Because ultimately, like if we're all adults in the room, why do we have sex? Because it's satisfying, right? And so rather than try to do scare tactics of, oh, be scared of this thing, I'm like, no, I got to go for the satisfaction angle. Like, okay, I know that we have sex to be satisfied, but this, I found a study from the youth, or from Chicago University, that said monogamous couples have more satisfying sex than unmonogamous couples. And then another stat, I forget where this one came from, but another stat said that those who are monogamous couples in a marriage relationship have more sex than those without a marriage relationship. So if you want to have satisfying and more sex, then wait till you're married. And you know what happened with the kids? They got it. Because the reason why they kept on having sex even though they shouldn't have been is because they were looking for satisfaction. But they were settling for the imitation stuff. But when I said, hey, the genuine stuff is over here, You just got to wait it out. They're like, oh, okay, I can do that, because ultimately that's more satisfying than the imitation stuff that I have been that I've been seduced by all along in this process. And so today we are going to be looking straight at the heart of what's going on here, and that's why we're looking at satisfaction. Because John is saying to the church, don't be seduced by physical pleasures. Don't be seduced by everything you see. Don't be seduced by your possessions and your achievements and think that you got somewhere, because that's imitation. But why do we do those things? Because it's satisfying. And so there's a more satisfying thing in here. There's a love that will last, that will outlast the imitation stuff. And so the first point that we're going to be looking at here is in verse 15, where essentially John is saying, hearts are hardwired for terms of exclusivity. Hearts are hardwired for terms of exclusivity. John says, don't love this world or the things that it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. So is this saying I can't love tacos? I love tacos. Tacos are in the world. Does that mean I can't love tacos? If I can't love tacos, I'm out right now. I'm telling you right now. I'm dropping this mic and I'm walking out. Yeah, there's a taco bar in heaven. I guarantee you. And so is this essentially what John is saying? It's really important that we sort of like dissect exactly what John is saying here when he says, do not love this world nor the things in this world. There's two things that John can mean here. First, he could actually mean, do not love this physical world or anything in the world, including your mom, including tacos, including sacred church, right? You can't love this world or anything in the world. He could be talking about that. Or he could be talking about the world as a spiritual state. Don't love the flesh. Don't love the sinful things of the world. Don't love the things that the world values versus the things that God values. Well, it's the second one that John is specifically talking about here, because part of his theology is, John is very much, part of his theology is the world is a good place that can be redeemed. That is consistent throughout his book, is that the world can be redeemed underneath the name of Jesus Christ. And so specifically, John here is talking about the sinful state of people. He's talking about the sinful state of where we are. But so essentially what John is saying here is he's saying that the world of sin stands in aggressive opposition to God. And so you can't love something that is in aggression towards God and have the love of God both at the same time. Because remember that John is writing here to a church that's currently in a debate. They're not necessarily in a debate trying to trivialize sin or loving the world, but those who philosophically question the relevance of sin or loving the world as something that can impede in our relationship with God. So let me put it this way: John is writing to a church, not for people that say like I'm not sinful, or that everything is hunky dory, but he's writing to a church of people that say, even though there is sin, I question whether this actually impedes my relationship with God. So in this way, John is very much a separatist. He is very much drawing a line of distinction that you and I sometimes have a hard line to draw. Because John is essentially saying that our hearts are exclusive. You either have the love of God, or you push out the love of God in your heart for the things of this world. Our hearts are exclusive, John is saying. And so whereas you and I, we like to sort of blend things together, and we have lots of, we have a desire to love our tacos and love all this other stuff, and we try to. John is drawing a very hard line here and saying our hearts are hardwired for exclusivity. Our hearts are hardwired for exclusivity. And so in many ways, John is saying here, if you want the love of the Father, the love of the world and the stuff of the world can't crowd that out. The second thing that John goes on here is says, beware of imitations that leave you empty. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and our possessions. But these are not from the Father, but they're from this world. And this world is fading away along with everything that the people crave. I love these three things that John outlines here about the things that the world offers. The first thing the world offers is pleasure, right? One thing that drives me absolutely nuts is when I have a great meal, but I still get hungry like 4 hours later. It drives me nuts. Like, I can spend $50 on a nice meal with my family, and I'm like, oh man, this is the greatest food ever. You know, we have a great time. And then I go home, and then all of a sudden I'm hungry again. And so I'm just like shuffling through my drawers, like trying to feed myself. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy because our body is constantly looking for something else to eat. There's always going to be another meal coming up. And so the world, what it does is sort of offers this imitation satisfaction in front of us, a craving for physical pleasure. So whether it is food or sex or massages or drinks, we don't quit, because once we're finally satisfied, then eventually the quit has overrun you. And so the world, it just offers this craving for physical pleasure, and ultimately, how many of you guys know that it's never enough, right? Have you ever been physically satisfied in any department in your life and you're like, okay, that's good for the rest of my life? No. There's always more. There's always a next step. There's always a next thing. And so eventually you have to come to the point where you just call it quits. Unfortunately, you can't call it quits for something like water or food or coffee, let's be honest. But the world just is continually offering you this imitation stuff and saying, here, have some more. And eventually, it makes us gluttons of all these various aspects of physical cravings within our life. And then eventually, it just leaves us empty from needing more. And in giving into all the pleasures of physical pleasures and cravings of whatever we have, we ultimately forfeit God's contentment. God offers a holy contentment. But when we decide to abandon God's holy contentment and we jump into gluttony with all this different stuff, then we forfeit that. And John is saying, don't forfeit the love of God, the real stuff, the genuine stuff, for the imitation stuff that the world is offering you. And then John goes on and he says, the world is offering you cravings for everything that we see. Have you ever met a content hoarder? Someone's like, I've hoarded all this stuff in my life and now I'm content. This is all that I need. No, there's always more to be hoarded, right? There's always another discovery to find. There's always another thing. My daughter's a hoarder. She's 5 years old. Man, I have to, at night, I have to throw away all of her artwork and hope that she doesn't see it. And I even, this is sick. I even have to, stuff it underneath other garbage in case she opens up the garbage and she sees her precious flower that she drew for me. There's just so much. We can't keep it all. We live in a tiny apartment. But I've never met a content hoarder. And so at the end of it, so we have a craving for everything we see, it just leaves us greedy, right? It leaves us greedy. And we live in a terrible area in the world for this to be able to have a problem. Because literally everything is at your fingertips. Everything. We see everything and it's so cool. Whether it's online or whether you see a Tesla driving by, man, I gotta have that. Because ultimately we were looking for that satisfaction of driving that car or wearing this watch or being able to have the phone that can't fit in my pockets because it's too big but has a really great picture quality. We're craving the stuff that we see. But in craving the stuff that we see, it leaves us greedy and empty and we're needing more. And then ultimately what we're doing is we're forfeiting God's provision. Because God has a provision He wants to offer you. God is offering a provision that you don't need all this stuff. But when we go out and get the stuff, max out the cards, ultimately we're forfeiting God's ability to be able to provide for us what we need when we need it. Give us this day our daily bread. But instead we're forget that daily bread. I want the steak. Put it on my visa. So John goes on and he says, the world's offering you pleasure, the world's offering you stuff, but the world is also offering you achievements. Specifically, a pride in our achievements and our possessions. And of course, from our LinkedIn profiles and everything that we've accomplished in life and our status amongst our peers, it ultimately just leaves us entitled, doesn't it? It just leaves us entitled and proud. And it leaves us entitled and proud, but still we're not content because we're empty and needing more. And because we've clung on to our achievements and our power and our positions, we forfeited God's humility that he offers when he says, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who are persecuted, blessed are those who no one looks upon with value, but I see the value in you. Blessed are them. And so we forfeit those things when we decide I'm going to cling on to my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to cling on to my status. I'm going to cling on to my team. I'm going to cling on to my power. We ultimately forfeit that humility. The thing that John goes on here, then, he gives us hope. Because I know I look at this, I'm like, man, clinging for pleasure, clinging for stuff, clinging for power, man, that's me all over the place, right? That's me all over the place. I struggle with each one of those things every hour of the day. I'm like, God, if I'm clinging on to this, I don't want the imitation stuff, I want the genuine stuff. So here's the hope that John offers us. Because there is a satisfaction that is both available and sustainable. There is a satisfaction that is both available and sustainable. Do you know why people do imitation? Because it's cheap and it's accessible, right? It's cheap and it's accessible. There's no reason why you would get faux leather. There's no reason why you would get it if genuine leather was everywhere and it was super cheap, right? So why do we do imitation? It's accessible and it's cheap. But man, the real stuff, though, it is available. And it's free by Jesus Christ. And so there's a satisfaction that is both available and sustainable. All we have to do is choose the right path. John says, this world is fading away, and with everything the people crave. But anyone who does what pleases but anyone who pleases God will live forever. There's the hope. There's the lasting satisfaction. There goes the, man, I'm hungry and I got to eat again in 4 hours. There goes the, man, I was satisfied with this person, but now I want it again later. There goes the constant struggle of filling ourselves with imitation crab and then just getting sick at the end of the night. I know you know what it feels like, stuffing yourself, because ultimately the imitation stuff isn't filling you the way that it should. Fill yourself with the right nutrients. This morning, Clive, my son, is 9 months old, and we were feeding Clive, and he was super hungry, and so he had a pacifier in his mouth, and he was chomping on his pacifier. He's like, he's just chomping on this thing. He's chomping on it. And so what Evie had to do is she had to go and she took out the pacifier out of his mouth, and then gave him a bottle. And then within that moment, Evie texted me. She's like, oh my gosh, that's it. Because the imitation stuff, it's a pacifier, right? It's something that kind of feels like the real thing, but it's not the real thing. You don't really get the right nutrients, and ultimately it's not filling. And so Evie goes, she pulls the pacifiers and puts in the bottle, and all of a sudden Clive's getting the nutrients that he really needs. That's actually satisfying and actually what he was looking for. But he just had to pull out that pacifier, put in that bottle. There's a satisfaction that you and I are looking for that can't be found in the imitation stuff, but it can only be found in the love of the Father. Jesus tells a parable about a boy who comes out of a rich family, and he decides that he wants to go chase everything that he sees. He decides that he wants to gloat in his power and his position. He decides that he wants to have all the physical pleasures of the world, so he says, Dad, I want my trust fund. And so the boy gets his trust fund and he goes off to, the modern day Vegas, and he goes and he has the ball. But eventually the physical pleasure wasn't enough. He ends up running out of the money. His power and position was dwindled because his influence was left void. And then he found himself, the only job he could find was amongst a bunch of pigs cleaning up their slop. And then in that moment, he's amongst the slop and he's doing all this stuff, and he says to himself, man, it would be better for me to be one of my father's servants, than be here amongst the pigs. Right now, there's some of you who are just in the slop with the pigs, feasting on the imitation crap. And the genuine stuff is waiting at home, just waiting for you. It's waiting for you. Something that's more lasting, more satisfying, it's better for you, will give you the right kind of nutrients, and ultimately you will be more filled and joyful than whatever else you think that you're gouging yourself on. And so, the prodigal son, he gets up and he starts walking home. And do you know what was waiting for that prodigal son? A father that threw his jacket around his son, put a ring on his finger, and he said, "Kill the fat calves, for my son was lost, but now he is found." There's a love that is lasting, that's both sustainable and available for you. As the worship team comes up here today, I feel like there's an appropriate response that needs to take place. And so in just a moment, the worship team is going to be playing a song. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to spiritually come out of the slop. I'm going to give you an opportunity just to have a time with God where you can simply talk to him. We believe that God is with us and he is all around us and he's in this place. And when you pray to him, God listens. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity to just say, "God, I've been feasting on imitation and I'm looking for something that's genuine. Take the pacifier out of my mouth and give me the real bottle. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what I want is you." And so I'm going to give you an opportunity to be able to pray that prayer. And I'm going to give you the space to be able to do it on your terms. Because ultimately, it's going to take you making that decision to get up and get out and to take responsibility for that. Will you stand with me?